And welcome back. Well, if you missed last episode's War Council, you missed a fascinating discussion about Lebanon, Hezbollah, and where that whole situation is going in that region in the Middle East. Joining me again this week are that same expert War Council. Waleed Phares is a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies in Washington and a leading terrorism analyst. And journalist Lee Smith has covered the Middle East extensively. He's author of the new book, The Strong Horse. Gentlemen, welcome back. Fascinating discussion last time. Now, we left with Lebanon, Hezbollah last time. This time I want to pick up with some of Hezbollah's sponsors. Starting with a potential sponsor, there's been some talk recently that Turkey is possibly funneling weapons into Lebanon to Hezbollah in conjunction with Iran, with Syria. Turkey denies this, obviously, the Turkish government. Waleed, what do you make of Turkey's turn? It seems like they're turning towards that radical axis of Iran, Syria, Hezbollah.
If they have reached the point, and i.e. the Turkish government, the AKP government, if they have reached the level of allowing weapons to come from Iran to Hezbollah, the problem is not anymore with Lebanon or with Israel, it's with the United States. Turkey is a member of NATO. We don't know at this point in time if these reports are verified or not. We will see. But Turkey's leadership, the AKP, has made three important moves in the region in that direction. One, they have been the allies of Ahmadinejad's regime against the people of Iran during the election and the demonstrations. Mr. Erdogan supported Bashir of Sudan when he was indicted by the International Court for the genocide in Darfur. And third, Turkey, we have to remember the regime in Turkey, the government in Turkey, signed a strategic cooperation agreement with Syria, with a country which is on our list of states sponsoring terrorism. There is something there that is very wrong, and I think Washington should be very clear with the Turks. If they move forward in supporting Hezbollah, they're basically out of the Western alliance.
Lee, do you think Turkey, under Erdogan, and after the flotilla incident, which the Turkish government instigated, do you think they've kind of past the point of no return? Is the Israeli-Turkish relationship and possibly even the U.S.-Turkey relationship about to go by the wayside?
I think that the Israelis have understood, certainly since Davos, when Erdogan started screaming at President Shimon Peres, I think the Israelis recognized that that strategic alliance was in jeopardy, if not already past the point of no return, as you put it. I think one of the things that we need to look at, though, and this is one of the things that's interesting to me about this weapons transfer, if the Turks did allow it to come through, because one of the things that we've seen throughout, through the history of the Turkish Republic is we see different divides between the military and the regime. We know there's a problem all the time. Now, if we go back and remember when the Israelis bombed the nascent Syrian nuclear facility in Deir ez-Zor, where apparently the Turks gave them permission, but it was the Turkish military who gave them permission, and apparently the AKP government was furious about this. So again, I think one of the things that we need to see here is if this has happened, if weapons have been transferred through Turkey, who's calling the shots here?
He has made a good point in the sense that who in Turkey is doing this, in the sense that Iran has a regime, we know they're in control of everything. In Turkey, the jury is still out. Do you have an AKP government, which is going in the Islamist, hopefully not jihadist, but Islamist route, but at the same time, they are dismantling the power and the influence of the military under the, quote-unquote, the conspiracy, the so-called conspiracy of 2003. Every time Erdogan moves closer to Iran, closer to Syria, closer to Hezbollah or Hamas, a few years ago, their government make more arrests and they put more pressure on the secular forces and the military inside Turkey.
Do you think Syria, Bashar Assad, is not the shrewdest leader, to say the least? Do you think Syria may do something, quite frankly, foolish and get involved?
Look, Eric, I have been following on the strategic Syrian decisions for 32 years now. When Syria's regime is quiet, it's a strategy. When Syria's regime sends a message to us that they are helping us on Al-Qaeda, it's part of the strategy. Syria's regime's alliance with the Iranian regime was signed in 1980 and renewed many times. Syria's financial support came from Lebanon for 15 years or 20 years. So basically Syria is part of this alliance. The Syrian regime is part of this alliance. They have the role, and the role basically is to send the wrong message. They are basically playing the role of the good cop versus Iran, the bad cop.
Right. right. Lee, last question. Or did you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I was going to pick up on that, actually. I'm not sure that Syria has been entirely quiet. I think one way to look at the incident on the border, on the border 2 weeks ago, the Israeli-Lebanese border, is remember that this was preceded a few days before by a Saudi-Syrian summit in Beirut, which was ostensibly to promote stability now that had come to Lebanon. And what happens? Almost 2 days later, a war breaks out in the south. The way that I read that, and the way that other people read it as well, is this is a message. Who's really calling the shots in Lebanon? And it's not the Saudis. It's the Syrians and it's the Iranians. So I see that as a message in the same way that you could look at the transfer of Scuds several months ago as the Syrians reminding everyone that the Iranians are not the only address for Hezbollah. You have to talk to Damascus as well. They're real troublemakers.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. Waleed Faris, Lee Smith, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.